Well, it's the end of the year and I want to be a little indulgent. I won't most likely have the time to make the other two videos I wanted to do, so consider this my apology gift for those who are expecting the Demon Dice slash Mori tier list and what the montage? God, I haven't played League in ages. Um, anyway, this is a very self-indulgent apology gift since it's going to be like 10 minutes of me discussing about Fate lore. So all the non-Fate enjoyers are about to rupture their spleen in pain, but I want to discuss Fate slash Strange because I enjoy it for being different compared to the rest of the Fate series. Also, I want to spend a minute talking about my favorite master of all time, so yeah, sorry guys. Sorry if you hate Fate. This is the Fate episode. I don't know why you clicked on it. Bye. To use its full title, Fate Strange Fate is a part of the Fate universe, starting as a light novel series before getting its manga adaptation. As far as I can tell, there's only about 17 translated chapters, if we don't count the ones that are broken in half. I don't know why people do this, but sure. And I'm not sure if there is more untranslated chapters, nor how far the actual light novel is. I will be mainly talking about the manga though, because I'm a manga reviewer, not a light novel reviewer. Now, Fate slash Strange does the thing I'm not fond of when it comes to a lot of these Fate spin-offs, which is using the same old template of a Holy Grail War. It's a staple to the series canon, and is a great way to just justify summoning everyone's favorite heroes, but considering we now have spin-offs like Fate slash Requiem and Fate slash Grand Order, the Holy Grail or feels very old hat. We have established that Fate stories can thrive without being tied to a Grail War. So when stuff like Fate slash Apocrypha and Fate slash Redline come in with it's a Holy Grail War, but insert the gimmick here, I'm not amused. But, call me purple and call me an eggplant, because Fate slash Strange somehow makes that tired old concept work. And I think it's because of how it not treats the overall canon of Fate, but also the entire Narsiverse. It feels completely respectful to the old guard, while still pushing the boundaries of what stories you can tell within the Fate universe. It's having its cake and eating it, and I fully endorse that notion. In order to re-explain why that's the case, I need to explain what it does to respect that pre-established canon. And I think what it does best is establishing the world and tying in all the pre-existing stories into it. Like, we have familiar faces popping in with the three major mage families in Japan showing up either by name or cameos. The clock towers here with everyone's favorite overworked mages. And we even get familiar servers like Gilgamesh, Hercules, and Enkidu if you are familiar with FGO. And while we're on top of other parts of the Fate universe, there are also mentions of FGO exclusive versions of Hassan with 100 faces, and the old man being dropped by name. Wait, 100 faces was... Yeah, I had a slip up. 100 faces is Fate such a... Whoops. I think also Beskell Party references Fate slash Apocrypha, which he mentions the existence of ruler class servants, and refers to Jean, which means this might be the timeline where that one family summoned Amakusa instead of Angamayu. So, hi, this is DXD in the editing room. I just want to add that I don't think this could possibly be the timeline where Angamayu wasn't summoned, because like a later plot point in the series is that Herc does get transformed into an Avenger using the mud that's produced by the Holy Grail. And from my reading and understanding, that only happens once Angamayu interacts with the Holy Grail and corrupts it. So in other words, the mud used to make Avenger Herc can only be produced in a timeline where Angamayu was summoned. So, I'm really starting to question what the fuck is the timeline for Fate/Strange right now, but I don't know, I guess we just have to say this is the timeline where somehow Amakusa and a timeline where APOC was, I guess APOC happened while also Angermai was still being summoned. It's fucking weird, man. I'll cut back to me now. And also Jack the Ripper's here. Hell, there's even a reference to Fate/Prototype with Ayaka appearing, who's also possibly Person A from the ghost story told in Fate/Hollow for a double whammy of obscure references. What I also like is how they bleed in other parts of the Narsiverse, with one of the masters of this world being a dead apostle, which brings in, I'm going to butcher this, Tsukihime, or if you're more familiar with the fighting games, Melty Blood, into the story. But not really. For fans of the Narsiverse, and more importantly the Fate canon, there's a lot of cool references to previous works and appearances of fan-favorite characters to keep them invested. It's a very good way of respecting what's been previously established as to not piss off the fans. But like I said, I like what it does differently, so how does it do that when it's wallowing in so much old lore and fan service? Well, let me put it like this. Everything I mentioned is like the foundation for something more interesting in the build to be built onto it. Or more accurately, tools that can be used to create something new. In this analogy, Fate/Strange takes the old tools and reworks them to better fit its narrative without letting said tool lose its previous purpose. I know that's a lot to take in, and analogies aren't my forte, so let me explain with an example. So we have Jack the Ripper, right? If you're familiar with APOC, you know Jack the Ripper as the cannibalistic lolly assassin who obviously had no presence in the first half of the story. Well, Jack the Ripper here is completely different and yet somehow faithful. First, this Jack has no form and is a berserker, which is frankly a lot more interesting. While Assassin Jack leans into the fact it's the embodiment of all the aborted children of London's whores, Zerker Jack leans into the fact that the original Ripper never had the original identity revealed. So therefore this Jack can just be wherever he wants. They give him the ability to just shapeshift. He's still a murderer and he quite clearly has no remorse for what they're doing, but this Jack is also self-aware of that. He knows he's not redeemable, and he also knows his master, Flat, is a fucking idiot. Okay, maybe Jack isn't the best example to use, but I still like this reworked version of Jack, and not only because I can now comfortably say I like Jack the Ripper without people thinking I'm talking about the small child. Alright, so let me think of other possible examples I can give, which I guess could fit into doing something new with old characters. Well, we get Gilgamesh, and I would say this Gilgamesh is more likable, because he's still the dickhead we all know and love, but we're pairing him up with a small child and letting him fight it out with his best friend. This is a Gil where he's allowed to be a great foe to his master, while letting him feel more like a character through Enkidu, and yet again, his master, while still being the hands-off my treasure, you Mongol guy we all know and love. Like, this Gil is allowed to falter. He's allowed to kind of not keep that facade up most of the time. Like, he still has it, but he may be a little different sometimes, react differently. You know, he's not one note. There's also the Hassan who gets summoned, because it's not a Fate story if there's no Hassans being summoned, unless you're Fate APOC. But this is not an Hassan, surprisingly, but it's a devout cultist that belonged to, I guess, the cult that all the old men come from, you know, the Hassans. You know, and she has somehow mastered the previous 18 Hassans' assassination techniques. Like, okay, wow, that's a really interesting concept for an Hassan. And then, you know, we also get Saber, but it's not Atoya, nor is it Charlemagne, but Richard Lionheart, the descendant of Atoi's bloodline. You know, how even Herc is here, but he's an archer who gets turned into an Avenger. So, he's still mad, but he's also sane in the same way. And I really like this version of Herc a lot because of that. The whole gimmick is the fact it's still a holy grail war, but they call it a fake grail war, a mere imitation of the ritual that's being recreated by the mages families in America to replicate the grail wars in Japan. This is it's taking like the tools of the series and then changing them to tell a far more interesting story than it could have done if it was, you know, stuck with the original concepts. But I cannot think of a better example of what I've just been talking about than Pollardi. Now, if you know your fake canon, you would know that name is part of Gil's Noble Phantasm. You know, that guy from Fate Zero who teams up with a airheaded murderer, thinks Saber is Jean, which is incredibly funny in hindsight when I think about it. And has fish eyes and summons that giant monster near the end of the series. Yet Gilles was merely a patron of Francescos Pilati, who was not only the original owner of Pilati's spellbook, but also was the one to corrupt Gilles, and is an incredibly powerful magus. And Fates Are Strange gives us a Pilati. The Pilati we get is Francesca Pilati, who on the surface seems like a manic pixie dream girl with a very clean goth Lolita style that I would copy, but it's in reality it's just the original Francesco's Pilati. Yeah, that got weird fast, but Pilati is an example of what I should have used over Jack the Ripper, because she is like the perfect bridging between established lore and the story it wants to tell. Or the story that Fates Are Strange wants to tell. Not only this Pilati is linked to Fates Are Zero through Gil, she has connections to Atalia, since Francescos' teachers were disciples of Merlin. She clearly had witnessed previous Grey Wars, as she previously mentioned. She knows about Jean's ruler class status, and then possibly the events of Fleet/APOC as well. And references the fact that she wanted to be part of Fate/Zero, but got cock-blocked by Zolkin. So in that aspect, she feels like she's tied to what they exist in the world of Fate. But then, she gets to add her own spin to things. Overall, here's the thing, right? She's the mastermind of this whole story, starting both a fake and a real Grey War at the same time. And by starting that war, she opens the gate to being new and weird with the Nasuverse. She feels like the stand-in for Fate. This being who represents what authors want. What the author wants from the story. Which is to push the boundaries and make something unique and interesting, with Pilati being the catalyst for that. To just bring up all the truly new stuff that gets added to the table in terms of just masters, and I guess servants as well. We get Wolf, an actual fucking wolf. Tsubaki, the comatose girl who somehow summoned a horseman of the apocalypse as a servant. Like, we have Philia, the Eisenburn homunculus, who gets possessed by fucking Ishtar, apparently. She doesn't appear in the manga, I saw that on the wiki, and I thought it was interesting. And also we have Baz Dilot, I butchered that, who brings in the Mafia of all factions to the canon, and Sigma, who somehow is kind of really boring, but, he has a backstory, but he's kind of bland. But, he's not only has ties to Fate/Zero, since his mother worked with Kitsu, but, he has like the most interesting concept, because he was supposed to summon True Lancer, right? But instead, he summons an entirely new servant class, only to be then told he will become True Lancer. Like, what? Without Pilati, we wouldn't be getting any of this, as she is the mastermind behind everything in this story. She is the main driving force that starts this entire story. Pilates makes Fate/Strange what it should be. Something new and experimental. Something we don't normally see in the Fate universe, or yet alone storytelling to begin with. It's taken that old hat that I was talking about earlier and added some life to it with pins and patches. I love it in concept. And my only problem right now is the fact it lacks content. Like, it's hard to judge it properly with so little to discuss. So I'm forced to just rant about why I love the idea behind it so much, and also why I love Pilates. She's like my favorite master. But yeah, that's my one flaw with this manga, and who knows? Maybe this really good concept with its, I wouldn't say great start. I feel like this is too strong. I feel like we're still in the starting phase of the war. Because we're still introducing a lot of characters and servants. So it still feels like we're setting up. So I don't know, maybe the back end of this will completely ruin everything. But I can't say that right now, because once again, there's nothing to talk about. I am certainly not done with talking about Fate/Strange. With the potential of new chapters and its anime adaptation next year, I want to revisit Fate/Strange in the future and give it a more proper review. Because right now, it's just me ranting about the things I love about it as a filler episode. You know, kind of like what I did with Helsing. But yeah. Fun fact by the way, but this review was originally going to be a Fate/Red Line review because I just can't get enough Nobu injected into my bloodstream. But my love for Pilates comes first, because holy shit, I love Pilates so much. Such a great character. Anyway, I hope this opens the channel to reviewing other Fate-related content in future, because as a relative newcomer to the series, I do want to just discuss everything about it. But right now, it's nearly Christmas, and the only Fate content I want to consume is FGO's Christmas event. Bitch, you really be out here looking like a cute tan delinquent, and I'm all for it.